Alright guys, how's it going? In this video, I'm going to be talking about the 5 things that are currently plaguing the vinyl community, in my opinion. And now this is going to apply to you whether you're a crazy collector like myself, who's obsessive, or a brand new collector. All of these things can and will affect you. So it's worth watching, and it's also worth leaving a comment with your thoughts. If you have any thoughts on anything I'm bringing up, or if there are things that I'm forgetting to talk about, please leave a comment, because maybe I'll address it in a future video. But for now, I want to focus on these 5 things that I think are pretty big issues. Now, this isn't just me complaining. This is me bringing awareness to 5 issues where I believe if more people talk about it and are aware of it, there is a higher chance of a solution being found. Now, without further ado, issue number 1 is extremely long times at pressing plants. I'm sure all of you have pre-ordered a record this past year where it said, oh, it's not shipping for 8 months, 10 months, 12 months, sometimes even more than that. Now, it's worth explaining why that is an issue, and the bigger issue are people being overly vocal about these lead times. It's worth saying that it is not the fault of the artist, nor is it the fault of the label that these lead times are astronomical. It sucks. You can be annoyed about it, but to make a big stink, to make a post on a forum or get really vocally upset about it, it's just wasting everybody's time. The reason these lead times are so crazy is because vinyl is at an all-time high. Right now, the demand for collecting vinyl records is insane, and the amount of plants that are around to churn out these pressings is very low in comparison. Even major artists are finding a long lead time, when in the past they could sometimes jump ahead of the queue if they have a different relationship with the plant or they paid a little extra. There were definitely ways to get around that, but now even artists like Taylor Swift have to wait a long time. This is something that's unavoidable, and unfortunately it's going to get worse before it gets better. Sources tell me that this could last a year into the future from now, and it's really unfortunate. It sucks, but again, the people that are making a huge stink about it, that is not the best way to focus your energy. Your huffing and puffing isn't going to magically make a pressing plant show up. It's not going to magically solve this supply chain issue. So I'm hoping that, you know, some people are thinking about opening more plants or expanding current plants, and that there's ways to kind of mitigate this as we move forward into this unprecedented demand. But as of now, I think the big problem are people making a really big deal and getting mad at labels, getting mad at artists, especially smaller labels and smaller artists that literally have no other option. I have a record label and I've pressed 12 records now, and I haven't put up a pre-order for months for the next one because I have ones in the pipeline. I'm just discouraged from putting out a pre-order because I don't really want to wait these crazy times. I'd rather things regulate themselves a little bit. Now, that's not to say I'm not going to put out any more records in the near future. I probably will, but it's just really disheartening to see, oh my god, I'm going to have to wait 9-10 months for this record to press, and you're taking all the money from people that are buying it, and then everyone's just in limbo. So it's a crappy situation all around, but unfortunately there's not an obvious solution presented for anybody. So what I'll say is just be patient. You know, we have record collections. Go spend time with records you own. Go to a local record store and pick up a record you can put your hands on and bring home. The record you're pre-ordering will eventually show up, and it'll be exciting when it does, but until then, there's so many albums digitally and through vinyl that you can listen to and enjoy and appreciate. Number 2 is directly related to the first one. It's another unfortunate thing that I'm not sure what the exact answer is, but bad quality control. This is plaguing the industry right now. I cannot tell you how many records I've had issues with, how many records people in my Facebook group talk about, Reddit, all the sources that I source vinyl information from, whether it's from, you know, people in the community talking about releases they're excited about or just picked up. The amount of people complaining about warped records, scuffed records, non-fill, all these little issues that are because of poor QC in the pressing plants, it's getting out of control. I mean, I'd say 1 out of every 4 records I pick up new now has at least a visual warp, if not one that makes it unplayable. And that's a really bad hit ratio that shouldn't exist and didn't exist in the past. Back in the 70s, 80s, you didn't experience these massive issues widespread across pressings of warpings. This is a recent occurrence in the past 2 decades. And honestly, I don't know what the solution is. This is dovetailing from the first point, because the first point is saying there's too much demand. The plants can't keep up. And, you know, I'm sure they're doing the best they can. I'm not trying to put the blame on the plants necessarily. I'm trying to say that there is a problem that is identified, is that there's so many issues with records not cooling properly and therefore having non-fill where, you know, you hear the whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. on every rotation, and it's disturbing, you know, in the middle of a song in a quiet part or after a song between transitions. It happens so frequently, I'm almost shocked these days when I find a record that doesn't have non-fill. So honestly, it's a big issue, and I don't know what the solution is, but the prices of records are steadily climbing and the quality control is steadily declining. So that is going to reach a strange apex, and I don't know what's going to happen at that point, but I feel like if these two continue to go like this, that could be a bubble burst scenario, and I'm hoping it doesn't get to that, because obviously I'm opening a record store and I'm hoping that records are here to stay for a very long time, but who knows? We will see what happens. I just wish there was an obvious solution. The third thing I'm going to talk about is labels trying to have their cake and eat it too. I'm going to preface this by saying that I have said for a long time there is an obvious solution to appease music listeners and collectors. For every record that you want to do some limited variants of, do an open pre-order on black vinyl so everybody has a chance to listen to it. If they just want to own it, to spin it, which is 100% the main reason anyone should get a record. Secondarily, if you want to appease the collectors and make a really cool limited bespoke thing, whether it's really unique packaging or a special variant, and those are going to sell out really fast, have that option, because collectors will always love that, and it'll maintain value and rise in value in the aftermarket, and that aspect of record collecting will stay the same. A lot of labels are not doing that, and in fact doing something that's even worse. So The Alchemist, who I had issues with originally with the way he did his vinyl pressings, has adopted this model, and I think it's brilliant. I think it's excellent, and it gives everyone a chance to get what they want. I mean, obviously the limited ones sell out pretty fast anyway, but you could always get the standard black if you missed the limited, so that's a win-win. The problem is, a lot of labels are using this FOMO, or fear of missing out, marketing, and they're causing collectors to scramble and buy these limited records only to immediately announce more copies of it after the fact. Whether it's, oh, we're gonna extend the pressing, or oh, here's a second press right away. These kind of tactics to me are kind of slimy, and I say that because this is not contradicting me saying everyone deserves to get a record. That's something I still believe in. The other aspect of this is that collectors are the ones that are paying for these overpriced records. The ones that are paying more than $20 for a black single LP. The ones that are like, oh, it's a splatter with an Obi strip. I'll pay $55 for that because I'm a collector and I know that this is a cool piece for my collection, and in a year from now this is going to be worth $150, so it won't feel like a stupid investment. Collectors are the ones that are putting money, big money, in the pockets of these labels. So to slap them in the face by saying, oh, this is limited to 300, and then it sells out really fast because they believe in you and they believe what you're saying, and then all of a sudden say, oh, here's another 600 for the pressing. When they bought it as a limited to 300. They didn't buy it as a limited to 900. I know that sounds like it's splitting hairs, but it's not. It's dishonest, and it's something that I think labels are trying to have their cake and eat it too. Like I said, they're trying to have these extremely limited runs, theoretically, and then they pump them up afterwards to continue making more money, but at the expense of the collectors, who are the ones that are putting money in their pockets to begin with on a grand scale. So for me, this is a huge issue. You can't do both. You can either have enough for everyone off the bat, or you make them limited collectors things and move on. I think this is a problem I'm seeing across many labels in many genres, and I'm hoping that this stops, but I don't really know what the answer to that one is either. Which dovetails into the fourth thing, which is botting. If you don't know, there are people that create scripts online to be able to purchase records instantly. So they have all the things they need to do to hit a button at a certain time. When the record goes live, they're immediately charged through their PayPal, and it goes like that. It is faster than any human being could ever check out from ShopPay, PayPal, whatever it may be, and they are claiming all of the limited records that are coming out. Now, that's kind of unfair, because then it's like, okay, either use a bot or you'll never get anything you want. And I think that's an unfair precedent to set, and I think that the concept of a hyper-limited record has been flawed from the start, and the concept I came up with, which was a lottery system when we've done Wax Mages for the Too Many Records label, is the best way to do it and make it fairest. It is a complete game of chance. It is not allowing people that have the means to kind of game the system to get ahead. And my buddy Eric, who runs Sly Vinyl, he adopted this recently for his Wax Mages, and I think people are ultimately really enjoying it. I even spoke to Heath at Wax Mage, and he's a fan of the lottery system as well. I just think it's unfair to let 25 people with bots get them before any fan has a chance, because a lot of the people that bought them usually buy them to sell them, and that's not 100% across the board. but if you care enough to make a bot or a script, you're probably in it just to make money. So, you know, it's a kind of a weird thing that's happening, and I do think the lottery system solves the issue a lot of the time, but there's still a prevalent issue of botting in the community, and it's preventing real fans from getting these records that are the most limited. And, you know, I just think this is getting worse and worse, especially with the Wax Mage and the Wax Vessel and some of these limited to 25 things that keep coming out. These are just getting slammed, and fans are having no shot at them versus a small shot, which at least, you know, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Now fans are just losing across the board. So that to me is something where we need to figure out a solution to that across the community. And the final thing is too many variants. My new channel name. Too many variants are coming out for so many records, and I'm talking about artists that are indie artists, artists that are mainstream artists. It's getting to be a little much. The first time I was like really like, whoa, and I don't necessarily think this was done poorly, was Taylor Swift's Folklore, one of my favorite albums of that year. She put out like 9 different variants of the album. They were all different colors. They were all different cover art, which I did think was cool, and that is the only time I've ever seen an artist do that, where they actually made the cover art different on each one to make them each feel very distinct beyond the color. Olivia Rodrigo's Sour, I mean, there's gotta be like 12 variants of that. Both of Billie Eilish's records, an absurd amount of colored variants. And even smaller indie artists like Japanese Breakfast. Jubilee, her new album, has 9 variants. Why do we need this many variants? It's almost like it's forcing collectors to buy them all if they're super fans, which is just so expensive and takes up so much room on your shelf. It's kind of crazy, and it's also making the overall pressing less limited. So if you're creating a collectible, that's one thing, but if you're creating a collectible with a ton of different versions, it kind of dilutes the idea of it being a collectible, don't you think? And hip-hop is doing this in a very weird way, and this is specific to their niche as far as I know, but they'll put out variants, and then they'll also, and this is mostly underground hip-hop, this is not like the mainstream artists. For some reason, a lot of the mainstream hip-hop artists have not picked up on the fact that they can make a ton of money by making collectibles. But that being said, the Griselda guys, all the DeRapwinkle stuff like that, they'll put out, you know, a bunch of variants, and then they'll have ones with Obi strips that are gone from the botters I just talked about instantly, and the Obi strips are just a little piece of paper on the side of the jacket, make it, you know, $15 more, whatever it may be. But the weirder issue is that after all these variants sell out, a lot of these artists are putting out albums that are deluxe versions of the album with 1 or 2 extra songs, and then doing a whole nother run of variants for that. Alchemist is guilty of doing this, you know, Crime Apple has done this before. It's just like very strange to me that they would just, you know, basically just laugh at their fans and kind of be like, just keep giving me money, keep giving me money, and just like, it seems very, I don't know, just kind of cringy to me that they would just do this so blatantly, and the fans are just kind of left being like, do I pick up the deluxe now too? Do I get 12 variants of this album? I don't know. I mean, there are some people that just buy one variant and call it a day, but I know it's kind of a weird thing for collectors. It's like very hard to wrap your head around when you're trying to get the coolest versions of an album you love, and there's 15 to choose from. What do you do? So those are just the things that I've noticed lately that are issues, and I would love, like I said, you to leave a comment below with things that you find to be issues, or your thoughts on any or all of these things I brought up. And hopefully we can find some solutions moving forward, because all of these things are speeding vinyl into a fiery crash that I'm hoping does not happen, because if we're able to regulate some of these problems, I think vinyl can really continue to live on for a long time as a dominant music medium, and collectors and music fans alike will be very, very happy being able to continue cultivating their own collections. But if these things continue to become problems, I really don't know what's going to happen. My hope is that we can figure out a solution. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope that some of these points resonated with you. And of course, there may be more videos coming real soon. So thanks for watching. Take it easy.